Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is January 1st, so Happy New Year. I just wanted to go over some basic thoughts on things that are happening today here, and yeah, kind of like a news update. But we're back in the $600 billion total market cap for crypto today. Um, and I guess some news that I wanted to cover here. I'm going to start with a really random thing. I did a video on BitConnect and my experience. I'm not posting any affiliate links because I'm not really wanting to encourage anyone to invest in it. I do think partly from curiosity, I find it interesting, and I noticed today when I logged in, um, I see they have an ICO starting up for BitconnectX. X. Could not find much information. I clicked that link and it brings me to here, and I can click like around here on the page and it doesn't do anything for me, which is kind of interesting. I feel like it's a little bit, I don't know. There's odd things that have happened with BitConnect, but they usually tend to be pretty on top of it, so I'm not really sure why they have these links at the top that aren't working here. But it's also like partly because of that, it's hard to find good information. I do think that the X might be exchange before exchange, and I think that it's kind of interesting because they already have an exchange in BitConnect itself, of sorts. I do notice they have a Litecoin down here, which is interesting. And honestly, as much as I'm not a huge fan of BitConnect, I think Litecoin is something I'd like to see more of. I think its quick, inexpensive transactions are an amazing and needed thing right now in the crypto space, and it is a great way to bridge the gap between um, Bitcoin's amazing storage of value, and it can uh, Litecoin can help cover that side of Bitcoin that is it's not so good at, essentially. And I like Charlie Lee. I like what I understand of the Litecoin project, and I really hope it does well. That's a very much side point from BitconnectX. Obviously, it's an ICO. Um, am I going to invest in this? I'm not. I don't plan to invest in this. I think it's interesting. Like I said, I've talked about BitConnect. I feel like so far they seem to be really focused on marketing and not a lot of actual quality. Like, I think the biggest question people have with BitConnect is how valid are they? Are they a real company? Are they actually trading in the background? And uh, I'm curious to see how long they last, but I am very aware that they're, in my opinion, quite lacking in their ability to actually prove themselves that they're something legitimate. But anyway, this is going on. I will be curious to find out more information as it does come out. And anyway, there's that. Another interesting thing I wanted to just look at here is this is just Google Trends, which is for me becoming a useful tool in so many ways, just as a metric of what people what showing hinting at people's interests. And this is just the past week, but you can see um, we are slightly on a downhill trend, which I have some more comments and thoughts on. This is worldwide, and just to go to let's see the last 3 months. So we were gaining. We had some huge spikes in the last 3 months, and obviously we're coming back down. It's not as alarming as it may sound. I think obviously today is the first of the new year. I don't particularly think that this last week being Christmas and everything, it does sort of make sense to me that Bitcoin isn't so much on people's minds. Let's go back to 5 years and let's see here. So July, let's see, August, December, just out of curiosity, November spike, and December 6th, December 27th, I don't know. It's hard to compare to the past because um, it's such a small amount of uh, it's such a small graph. I was just curious looking to the past how things compared to now. Some pretty good spikes right here. It was coming down here on January as well. But I'm going to go into some more in-depth past history here in a second. But I just found that interesting that right now we are on a slope down for search volume. Kind of related to that, I think this is basically showing the. Let's see if I can scoot this over just a little bit. The average transaction fee, and more or less from the last month we're actually getting down a little bit, so now may not be the worst time to transfer funds. And just wanted to make note of that. If you're holding Bitcoin and you want to put it in your wallet or transfer to another exchange, now might be a good time to do that. I also just recently found out, and I want to say this again, that if you have coins in Coinbase that you want to transfer out, use GDAX. It's free. The transfer fees are free. So I think that's a really valuable thing. I don't see a lot of people. I don't know that a lot of people know that. I think a lot of people are catching on to the fact that if you use GDAX, you can essentially use limit orders and buy Bitcoin without a fee associated to it. But not a lot of people know that you can transfer out for free. I know that was something new to me fairly recently. Okay, so here I just went ahead for fun and looked back at the past years to see if I could find January 1st. Each of these green lines is a January 1st. I just wanted to see if there was any basic patterns, it being the new year, and things like taxes and goals and all the things associated with the new year. Was there anything in common I could find? And really, I couldn't see any really clear patterns. If you look, we're on a downhill trend here. I mean, at January 1st, 2017, we were on an uphill trend, and then we crashed. And then you look here, we're kind of flat. Here we're just following the trend down. We dumped, I think, is this on the second or so? It's probably not the second, third-ish on that year, and then we go back over here to 2013. We continue the trend up. So I don't see a ton in common with the new year. The only thing I can find is that we have relatively low volume. Every single January 1st tends to be a relatively low, even though we're on an uptrend in some of these times where we have lots of volume around that, particularly a couple days around the first tend to be low. Same here. We have these huge spikes after it, but right here on the first is low volume. So we could estimate that maybe it's going to be a low volume day. And it could be something where looking at today specifically as building confidence in really any price predictions and interest is probably not the best day to do that, because historically speaking, people haven't been focused. You could imply that people haven't been so focused on Bitcoin on the first of the new year, and people are probably still sleeping right now. Did want to talk really quickly about Litecoin. Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum are of the top market cap coins in my opinion. The coins I'm the most interested in. Bitcoin Cash is up there as well. Personally, I think there's fundamental flaws in Bitcoin Cash and a lot of propaganda around it, and there's a part of me that wants to see it die. But yeah, I think it's a wild card, and I don't have necessarily any ethical problems with people buying some. Like, I have some basically as a hedge, and it might even be recommended. And I mean, I would, like I said, if I would love to lose all my money because in the Bitcoin Cash or Bcash, just so it got out of the way, we wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. But I like to see that battle in a sense be over with and Bitcoin be victorious. But I know, understand too, at the same time, it's part of the process, and it's forcing Bitcoin to prove itself again. And I think ultimately it's a needed thing, and in itself, Bitcoin needs to be able to handle something like Bitcoin Cash. And I'd really like to see it handle it well and come out ahead and stronger than ever. But here is, like I said, Litecoin. So this is just Litecoin to beat to Bitcoin, and I'm just basically drawing some really boring, stupid, simple trend lines here. Really, really, really long ones. But basically, one thing you can kind of see here is around the 0.2 Bitcoin. Ethereum's like had an interest with that level, and it's had a hard time staying above that. This is obviously the day. And we've tested more or less that 0.2 many times, and we haven't quite been able to go above it. I'm curious, like, I mean, Bitcoin is obviously in a dip right now. I'm curious, since this is a ratio Litecoin to Bitcoin, the Litecoin to USD may actually go up and still not break that 0.2 of Bitcoin. But anyway, I just find that interesting. It's an obvious thing to pay attention to. Ultimately, even though we had this immense spike, which is obviously not something particularly uncommon to Litecoin, you can see these incredible bull runs. Often, they often, they peter off quite obviously in a lot of these. But like I said, their USD values is holding fairly steady, and over time tends to be going up. But relative to Bitcoin, it can't seem to pass that 0.2. If Bitcoin does go up, it's hard for me to imagine Litecoin not going up as well. And I think what I understand of Litecoin, the company, I think its use case is only becoming something people are going to want to take more advantage of. The problems arising with Bitcoin's transaction fees and transaction times being relatively slow and expensive. Litecoin, man, it seems like it's going to fill that gap, and with lightning swaps and other things coming in, I can't see how Bitcoin's not going to continue to get more press in genuine use case. And I want to see, as much as I want to see Bitcash die, I want to see Litecoin take over. I think Dash and some other coins have similar use cases and might do well, but obviously Dash is per coin more expensive than Litecoin. Out of curiosity here, I haven't looked at, I'm going to go back to the market cap and see where. So Dash is way down here. Obviously, part of the reason that Dash is so expensive relative to Litecoin is because there are less Dash. So there's 54 million Litecoin and there's 7 million Dash. So just because Dash is more expensive per coin obviously does not mean that its evaluation is more or anything like that. It's just they have less coins, so they end up going for more. And you can see here, just speaking of Dash, this is the last 7 days, and this is USD value. Let's just leave it there for fun, but it's actually going down in value a little bit from where it was, which it's not too much to comment, but man, it had a huge run earlier this year, like a lot of other coins have. But anyway, let's see here, where were we? Yes. And Ethereum. Back to Ethereum, back to the old graphs here. We are also hitting this basic support line around 0.6-ish of a Bitcoin. I don't know, I'm really bullish on Ethereum this year as well. I mean, we had this amazing run up here, and then pretty good drop, and I expect, man, it's hard for me. I think Ethereum might do well again this year. We'll see. I think it's a solid. I mean, it's another solid coin with a very different take on things. It's unique. There's obviously a lot of coins that are copying it. I'm also quite interested in EOS, which hasn't taken a huge spike extremely recently, but I think it may. And same thing with Neo. I think they're all Ethereum type tokens, and I think they all have potential, but Ethereum is by far the most established, and I think it's going to probably do well this year. And I think, in my opinion, a diversified portfolio of cryptos, it makes sense to include Ethereum in there. And yeah, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. Okay, I recently found out about KuCoin. Same person that told me about being able to transfer funds from GDAX for free told me about KuCoin. I think an interesting thing here is, for example, if you're holding Neo, KuCoin will give you daily payouts in Neo gas. And yeah, that's just a heads up. If you have Neo, keep it in your wallet. It's probably the best place to do it. Get your gas that way. Otherwise, if you are actually trading it, I would say KuCoin is a good exchange to consider. I know that KuCoin has affiliate links associated with it. If I can find that, I'm going to put my affiliate link to KuCoin under the description. It is something that, from what I understand, is a valid exchange, and it's I really liked Bittrex. I started liking Binance, and now I'm starting to like KuCoin. But my exchanges are just growing and growing, the number of exchanges I use. But I do think so far KuCoin is potentially a valuable exchange. They tend to be ready to give you kind of like Binance, but they tend to be ready to give you things like gas and coin forks, whereas a lot of other exchanges won't necessarily do that. And I specifically know for Neo they pay out your gas daily. So that's pretty cool. If you're holding Neo, you can get essentially a little bit extra interest in it by holding gas. Anyway, so just talking about KuCoin, their fees, just for what it's worth, you can deposit for free. No surprise there. Their trading fees are 0.1%, and then they have a list here of withdrawal fees. But anyway, I think a lot of people are probably interested in the trading fee, and it's 0.1%. Let's see here. One of the interesting people that I like to follow is actually, let's see, before I get to that, let's talk here about, let's see here, my pages are messed up here. One of the people I like to follow, I think is a fairly bullish outlook right now on Bitcoin, is Parabolic Trav. And I think he has an interesting perspective, and I think he's worth paying attention to. Not that he's right, obviously. I just think he has a fairly unique take, and he is, I think, clearly experienced in trading, and his theories are somewhat founded. I don't necessarily put as much confidence on them as he seems to, but I'll talk more about this later. Let's see here. Another thing, another person on Twitter, the Litecoin Tween or Cryptos Queen, she posted a video, and a couple other people have also posted this, of someone with a Coinbase account here. Let's see if I can make this bigger. And you can barely see, it's a pretty bad quality video, but right here is Ripple. And we don't know if this is real or not, but it is. There's been rumors forever that Ripple is going to be the next coin added to Coinbase. And you can see there's Ripple here. They made some transactions. They even show, you can look up this wallet if you'd like, probably, and see if, try to verify the transactions. And I think that's what happens in that video. But I don't know if it's legit or not. It's just more rumors, possibly, that Ripple will be the next coin added to Coinbase. Kind of along those lines, I am not a huge fan of Ripple. I think a lot of people give it a hard time because it's not decentralized, and on one hand, I'm with them. On the other hand, I'm not, because basically my thought is that in index funds or in our current stock market, there's plenty of amazing, beneficial, problem-solving companies that are quite, like, almost all of them are centralized. So the fact that they're centralized, to me, is definitely not necessarily a bad thing. But I do think, I think there are arguments to be made that Ripple, because it is centralized, you combine centralization with a chain, and it almost nullifies a blockchain. Like, and it doesn't nullify the blockchain; it nullifies how the blockchain is authenticated. What's the point of having a ledger of transactions if the transactions are centralized? And you could go back and you essentially nullify the transactions that happened whenever you'd want it, and even arguably change the total number of market cap coins. Not to mention with Ripple, the majority of so many coins are owned by Ripple themselves. I mean, there's just a lot of questions, and I'm really hesitant. Actually, I had a Ripple, not a lot of money in it, but it was one of the more of my, not Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, but one of my smaller alt currency, like total holding amount was lower than my favorite coins, but it was a good chunk, and I sold a lot. I mean, in this last run, because I'm not even sure if I want to support Ripple right now. I think it's fun to speculate. I think they do have a fairly capable team behind them, but I think they really need to answer some basic questions. I think Tone Vase has a really good video um, on Ripple, and man, I thought I had that here. Did not have it. Just a second. Okay, here we go. So here is on Tone Vase channel. If you look up crypto scam number 6 Ripple, and it really doesn't start going until about 35 minutes in, and then about an hour in is when they start getting down to the point and start pointing out basically what Ripple is saying themselves, and not even like implying a lot, just using what Ripple themselves has said about how they work and seeing potential huge flaws there. I think if someone is well invested or considering investing in Ripple, this would be a good video to watch, and just make sure that you consider this other side before you put tons of your money in it. But yeah, I think that video is worth watching. Okay, continuing on. Here's just a theory. I don't know how much weight to put on this kind of stuff, but this is from James G. Rickards. Says, dear holders, here's how the Bitcoin whales will play you. Whales sell futures on CME. Whales dump Bitcoins on exchanges. Price tanks, but futures position offsets. Loses, you lose, they don't. Basically, they're just playing the difference between the real market value of Bitcoin and the futures, and changing the price and the time at so when they have to sell one or the other or buy, it's always to their advantage. I mean, I think that's a game to play. I think how much confidence I would put in that, I don't know. It's an interesting thought. I don't even know what it means. Like, if they're doing this, then what does that mean for us? I don't know. I mean, but it's something to consider, I guess. Features are potentially encouraging price manipulation. Okay, Tone Vase again. He's been posting this. Oh, Tone Vase, by the way, is one of my favorite technical analysis Bitcoin pundits, I guess. I really like watching his almost daily videos on price, and I think there's no question that he's experienced he knows what he's doing, and I love that he will be so hesitant to say the future unless he's pretty objective, and I feel like his information is extremely valuable. But he's basically drawn these basic lines out here, and more or less the last week or so it's been in a no trade zone according to him, and I think that's worth considering. Basically, so let's see if I can get this right. So it's like if we break above, I think this line right here, the next place to test is here, and if we break that, it's a good sign we're bullish, and it might be a good time to buy in right here. Similarly, if we break below either of these, it's time to sell potentially, and or anyway, I don't know. It's no trade. I'm hoping that we do get a good bounce up here, and he talks about in his most recent video today that his guess is where we've got, you can barely see it, but there's a very faint triangle here, and his guess is at just barely above 50% chance that we're going to break up out of this triangle because of the way it was formed and everything, whatever. it's still like I really think that he's saying it's a no trade. I think this is a no trade. I think we're in suspense, and I think judging much off of today, like I said, when we do have low volume, and with historically it being a low volume day when people aren't paying much attention to crypto, I think we should follow that and not put too much weight on what's happening today. I do think the end of this week is going to be interesting, and we'll see what happens. Okay, back to Parabolic Trav here. Another interesting guy, like I said. I think his opinions are extremely bullish, and this is a graph that was drawn, and you can see he actually has it dipping down to like February-ish, and then just really taking off. I mean, the end of this curve is going all the way up. 200,000, man, would that not be cool? That would be sweet. Here's a similar graph here. This isn't by Parabolic Trav, but it's a parabolic curve. I want to give credit to Justin with a 5 for this, just for drawing this, but he's got more or less Parabolic Trav's parabolic little channel here, but he's got it combined, and I don't know, it's just interesting to see the potential bullish curve here where we're I mean, if we follow this channel, you can see he's got 100,000 here and 150,000 here. Like we might, I mean, if they're halfway accurate, before sometime in, let's see, March, April-ish, they're projecting we may hit $100,000 Bitcoin. I'd love to see that. I'm sure that would come with a pretty awesome heck of a correction. You know, I think this is all perspective. These are all things to consider. And you know, if Bitcoin does do something like this, if this parabolic trend is real, if it's something that is actually projecting the real adoption rate of Bitcoin and the real amount of money that people are going to want to put in, you know, are you in a position that you would benefit from this? You know, if we do break down in Tone's channel here, if we decide to go down and we tank, you know, are you prepared for that? Have you thought that through, what you're going to do? Are your stop losses set? Are you going to want to ride it out? I think just simply those are good questions to have asked yourself, and be prepared for what this world has to crazy crypto world has to bring. Anyway, that's pretty much what I have for today. My basic thoughts on the craziness here. And anyway, I hope you guys have a happy New Year's Day and a freaking awesome 2018. I will talk to you later.